Over 6 months into the year, and 2025 looks like it's really going to go down as an all-timer year for the medium of video games. January was a little slow, but since February it feels like we've been on a non-stop roller coaster of video game releases. February had Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 and Monster Hunter Wilds, and then in March we had Split Fiction, Assassin's Creed and Atomfall. April had the long-rumoured Oblivion remaster, and Game of the Year Claire Obscure. In May we got Doom the Dark Ages and Night Rain, the Switch 2 with Mario Kart World and Death Stranding 2 in June, and finally Donkey Kong Bonanza. A whole lot of games, and some of them being a lot better than others. I'm missing a whole lot of great games like Nintendo Switch Welcome Tour, a truly unforgettable experience that if you have a Switch 2 and haven't experienced this masterpiece yet, you owe it to Nintendo to fork over $10 for this game. But other than Donkey Kong, which was fantastic by the way, finished it in like 2 days because I was that addicted to it, the summer game drought, which is about 2 weeks in July, has hit. But once that 2 weeks is done, we are well and truly stuffed for the rest of the year. Almost too many games. So once again, I want to highlight a game that I think that might be getting lost in the mix. But this time, I don't just want to highlight one game, but 2 games. As the 2 games I wanted to highlight are being compared quite a lot, as they are both games with similar aesthetics, similar gameplay, and both coming from long dormant franchises who are looking into making it into the big time. These of course, as you can read by the title, are Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance. Both of these coming out within a couple of weeks of each other. And to be honest, it feels like one of the 2 things are going to happen releases. One is that they will release with little to no buzz as they're coming out in such a crowded window and neither of them make an impact. Or because of how similar they are, they'll just end up cannibalising each other. But today, I want to show you all you need to know about these games and how they might be sleeper hits, a lot more different than you think. So starting off with Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. This is a new 2D entry in the long-running but also dormant Ninja Gaiden series that is having a huge revival in 2025, with a remake of Ninja Gaiden 2 Black releasing back in January and Ninja Gaiden 4 being released in October, the first new 3D Ninja Gaiden in over 13 years. And of course there is Ragebound, which like I said before is a 2D entry, which is a big deal in the Ninja Gaiden series, as this is the first new entry that isn't a spin-off in over 30 years since Ninja Gaiden went 3D back in 2004. The series hasn't looked back since, well, until now, and honestly, I'm glad that they decided to go back and give the 2D games a new entry, as it's been so long since the last 2D entry. It'll be interesting to see what a modern 2D Ninja Gaiden game can be, and the development studio behind Ragebound is a developer who I have a lot of faith in, and that's because Ragebound is being made by the Game Kitchen, and if you don't know who they are the Spanish developers behind the brutal and beautiful Blasphemous series of games, a set of 2 brutally hard Metroidvanias with gorgeous pixel art style that in my opinion are criminally underrated in the Metroidvania scene, as the more Dark Souls approach to the world building and combat with a wholly unique setting and art style makes the series a favourite of mine. So seeing the Game Kitchen get their hands on Ninja Gaiden, a series well known for its brutal difficulty, it seems like a perfect match. So what is the story for Ragebound? Well, as this is a new entry in the 2D series, the story of the game takes place during the events of the original 2D trilogy, while Ryu is in America. So we are in the role of Kenji Mozu, a young ninja from the same village as the series' main character, Ryu Hayabusa. He is tasked with defending the village while Ryu is away, and as a portal unleashing demons attack the village, the pupil of the legendary Ryu Hayabusa, it's Kenji's job to save the village, but he won't be doing it alone, as he's forced to team up with the kunoichi Komori, a member from a former rival clan, the Spider Clan, to face the bigger threat, the Demon Lord. So, the story by all means is very simple, which yeah, I'm not exactly surprised. It's definitely got some substance to it. I think it will do a good enough job to keep most people's attention for the runtime of the game. The bigger job is seeing if the new characters, Kenji and Komori, will be able to live up to the legend that is Ryu. Will they leave their mark? Who knows, but let's be honest here, I don't think many of us are playing a Ninja Gaiden game for the story. No, the biggest reason why I play a Ninja Gaiden game is because of that challenging gameplay, baby. I know in the modern day, if you want to tell someone who plays games if a game is hard or not, you tell them how hard it is compared to Dark Souls, as the Souls series is the only hard game series ever. But those who have played, other games with difficulty, especially Ninja Gaiden games, you will know that these games are much harder than the Souls series. So if it's difficulty you crave in your video games, and you've bested all the Souls series, Ninja Gaiden is the series for you, and Ragebound seems to be keeping up series tradition, as the gameplay is fast, visceral, and very bloody hard. As when I got my hands on this during the recent Steam Next Fest, it was clear that the Game Kitchen had completely understood the assignment. But the game isn't difficult for the sake of being difficult. It's clear just from the short demo I played that the game is designed in a difficult but fair way, as nothing felt like it was designed to rage bait the players. It's designed in a way in which you need to learn the game's mechanics and master them when it comes to the harder challenges the game has to offer. But one thing I want to clear up about the game, which is something that I wasn't entirely sure about till I did some research, but despite the fact the Game Kitchen are well known for making Metroidvanias, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is not a Metroidvania, which might be amazing news or disappointing news depending on how you feel about the genre. Me personally, I love Metroidvanias, but after playing the game for myself, I don't think it's going to affect my enjoyment. No, the game is instead a 2D hack and slash action platformer, which means not only fast combat, but also tight and challenging platforming. The game releases for PlayStation, Xbox, Switch and PC on the 31st of July, digitally, and the physical releases on the 12th of September. So that's what you need to know about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound. Let's move on to the other ninja game that's coming out pretty close to Ragebound, that being Shinobi Art of Vengeance. The Shinobi series is a series by Sega that started way back in 1987 on the arcade, and like Ninja Gaiden, had a trilogy of games in the 90s, with a few entries in the mid-2000s, with it being dormant for nearly 15 years. But with the initiative that Sega started a few years back to bring some of their oldest, most dormant series back, Shinobi is the first one to get a new entry, and this revival is being headed up by Lizard Cube, the developers behind the Wonder Boy games, and probably more notably the Streets of Rage 4, which is another Sega franchise that they breathed some new life into. And what's very noticeable with that game and Shinobi is the striking art style. Like, my god, I think Ragebound's art style is great, don't get me wrong, but the hand-drawn art style of Shinobi and Streets of Rage 4 is probably one of the nicest art styles I've ever seen in a game. I've always been a bigger fan of stylistic cartoon art styles as opposed to a gritty one. Don't get me wrong, I like both, but I do have a preference, and Art of Vengeance gets me more interested based on looks alone. So what's the story of Shinobi Art of Vengeance? So the story follows the series' main protagonist, Joe Musashi. The legendary ninja returns to find out that his village has been burnt down and his clan has been turned into stone, which stokes Joe's desire for revenge against the powerful Eni Corp, which is led by a mysterious evil Lord Ruse, the main target of Joe's vengeance. So the story, like Ragebound's, is not the main selling point, as once again a pretty serviceable story, but nothing that's going to be remembered for years to come. And like Ragebound, that's completely fine, as the gameplay is going to be the biggest selling point. So yet again, I want to emphasise that Shinobi is not a Metroidvania. Those who have played the older Shinobi games and Ninja Gaiden games know they are not Metroidvanias, but it's quite easy to assume just by looking at the games that look like this in the modern day and just assume it's a Metroidvania, like I did. But no, Shinobi, like Ragebound, is a 2D action hack and slash platformer, which, if it's anything like the original Shinobi, Vengeance is going to be a very tricky game, like Ragebound, which paints the question that you might be asking, what is the difference between these two games? Because other than their names, they sound very similar. Similar story, similar characters, setting and gameplay. Yeah, they have distinctive art styles, but they're both trying to capture a similar sort of audience, so it's no surprise if they both end up getting released with little to no fanfare. But this video isn't trying to compare the both, or even predict which one will be worth your time, as honestly, I don't know. But what I do know is, despite their similarities, I myself are looking forward to playing both, as they're both being developed by two different studios with two different sets of ideas, and both studios are incredibly talented, who I have a lot of faith in. So the point of this video is just letting anyone know who didn't know that you absolutely need to know about Ninja Gaiden Ragebound and Shinobi Art of Vengeance. If you liked the video, please consider liking and subscribing and leaving a comment as it helps me out massively. Let me know if you plan on picking either of these up. But once again, thank you for watching and hopefully I will see you again.